Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. My guest today, or I should say returning guest, Tammie Lowell, Native American from the Lakota Nation, residing in Florissant, Colorado, but available to you at most places all over the world. Tammie is an herbalist, but an unusual one, not the kind you would normally run into, because the vast majority of her formulas, at least in part or in its totality, are built from recipes from hundreds, if not thousands of years old from the Lakota Nation. Tammie, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ross. Good to be here.
Now, you can find her at oyateherbals.com. That is spelled O-Y-Ate, herbals.com. So, Tammie, fill us all in again for everybody who is joining us for the first time, what you do.
Okay. Well, I am a Native American master herbalist and phytotherapist. In short, I've been working with herbs since I was a young girl. I have Eastern, Western, and Native American herbology behind me. And as a phytotherapist, that's just a fancy way of saying I can recommend plant medicine to assist you in about anything that you would need.
You use this term of the phyto. What does, and you just sort of explain that, but how is that different really from a regular herbalist or someone else who had a, herbal shop?
Gotcha. As a phytotherapist, we actually study pharmacology. So that way we're able to give more in-depth recommendations and make sure that we are not having our clients or people mixing different herbs with their medications. So that way it could cause an issue. So it's just a more in-depth way of being able to recommend good quality plant medicines, and you're not harming them, because a lot of people just go out and they're like, oh, let's take St. John's wort, for depression. And the next thing you know, you're in the hospital because you put it with your, medicines that are helping your antidepressants or your anti-anxiety, and then you have an issue. So that's the difference. I am a little bit more advanced than just a normal herbalist would be.
Okay, so would you say then, I know that herbal medicine and naturopathy can be an alternative to what we would say Western medicine. Can you say, though, that you can also have it interact to be a complement to it?
Correct. Yes. I have worked with different oncologists, radiologists, primary care physicians to be able to enhance sometimes what Western medicine does.
Okay.
Try to bridge that gap, at least in between, is what I'm trying to do, at least.
And so for some people, they'll actually have their doctors communicate directly with you?
Correct.
Is there anything that formal needs to go with that in any sort of engagement? Or is it just a matter of, if I see my normal doctor, I say, hey, I'm working with Tammie and this is what she's doing with me, and I'd like it for you to give her a call, please, so we can make sure that we're all synced up?
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
They have to sit down with me. It's about an hour to do what I call an intake on a client.
Mm-hmm.
I get all of their information. It's not much difference than what you would fill out for a actual physician. And then I have to follow all of the HIPAA practices, and they have to actually sign a release. It's sent over to their physician, and then it's up to their physician to take it from there.
All right. So that seems to be probably well on the formal side of things. Can people just call you, talk to you, email you, or show up at your shop and sort of deal with you in a more informal or more immediate way?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
not a
So
problem.
I ask because we got Christmas time here. And so, 'tis the season to be jolly and to freak out. So, what would be some stuff that you could recommend for all of us who are just looking for a bit more zen over the holiday season?
Oh, I think my go-to for anybody is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is an amazing herb that actually, in turn, helps reknit the synapses of the brain. So it does work well with the brain chemistry. So it just helps us bring our own natural balance back around.
Now you say reknit. Are you referring to like if I was crocheting something like the metaphor for that? What does that mean to reknit my
Yeah, kind
brain?
of. I mean, if you, yeah, kind of. If you look at it in, I try to put things in layman's terms because I could get all clinical and everything, but then it makes it for the normal, average, everyday person to go, "What did you just say?" So yeah, and it just helps to bring those synaptors back together to work better, and um, that way the stress doesn't hit you as hard.
All right, so I know that there's things that I could put on my skin or maybe ingest, but do you have stuff for like the whole family of us, like aromatherapy things or other stuff that I could work with that I could stick up in my house just to make us all a bit more chill?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I carry a full line of essential oils. I use a lot of the um, different. I even have uh, incense that's hand dipped in essential oils. So you have the actual herbal property, not just some fake fragrance synthetic that's burning in your home.
All right, so I want to keep staying jolly if I'm actually having people over. So can this stuff coexist with my scented candle or other things like that?
Absolutely. I get a lot of really surprising um, what's the word I want? Recalls from people at my different shows because I have all of these different fragrances, out on the booth, and they walk by like, "Oh my God, it smells so good." Well, there's probably 20 fragrances all there at once, but they all blend so beautifully together because they're pure and organic. When you start adding synthetics into the mix, that's when you get things to conflict.
All right, what about helping me sleep at night after I've been all amped up and overstuffed on the holiday meals? What would you recommend for that?
Well, if you ate turkey, you're probably good because there's lots of tryptophan in turkey. But if you didn't do the turkey thing and you only did ham, well, then I would recommend either valerian root. It's been used for years. Passion flower is another really good one. I have a sleep tincture that has them both in it. I also have an herbal tea that has a large blend of different herbs that you could also purchase. But chamomile is probably everybody's, basic go-to.
Mm.
But if you want to really go down, you want to use like valerian roots or passion flowers. California poppy is a good one. Just depends on the person and what access you have as well.
All right. So on the days when I have a little bit more trouble sleeping, so what is this stuff? Is it a cream? Is it something that I leave as a scent in my room, or just is it a pill? What am I doing?
Well, I do carry all of the above, and I usually ask people, when they come in, I ask them, "So, what are your sleep habits? Are you somebody who takes melatonin, or are you on Zoloft? How are you sleeping?" So, I have what I call mild, medium, and extreme people that sleep. So, yeah, we could do something very simple as a lavender essential oil or a sleep tight type of a pillow spray. Then I step up to the cloud walking herbal teas, and then my last and the extreme people, that's when I recommend a an herbal tincture that you take orally, and you do that about 30 minutes before you go to bed.
Okay, 30 minutes. So would any of these things, so I have a couple of kitty cats, and one of them, and we'll talk more about the pets in a little bit. One of them just seems to love to, right about when I'm about to pass out and I'm almost there in la la land, to walk right over my face. So
Nice.
that's just her way of saying she loves me, I guess. If I'm looking for something that's really going to knock me out, which one of those do you like the best for the deepest slumbers?
That's going to be the sleep assist, the valerian root and passion flower. So yeah, I would recommend the herbal tincture. And the nice things about these is that you can take it. If you say you had some type of an emergency or something in the middle of the night versus a actual narcotic or something that's going to knock you out, you can bring yourself out of this and you can come around and you're not going to have that hungover drug out feeling like you would with regular medicines. So you can take it, it's safe, it's not harming the body, and you're still getting a good night's rest.
So I don't have to pound my 5 cups of coffee in the morning then just to shake it all off.
Not unless you're a cup of the morning type of a person, then yeah, probably. I mean, it's not going to change you that much. So yeah.
Earlier you were talking about diets, right? So sometimes with traditional medicines that we take, certain antibiotics, things like that, they say empty stomach or definitely a full stomach or whatever. How critical or common, I would say, is it that the timing and or even maybe more specifically what sort of things you're eating could come into play if you're on an herbal regimen?
Oh, huge. It's absolutely a balance between everything when you're using traditional medicines. You can, um, especially with diet, you can actually help enhance those herbs because if you're healthier, you're eating healthier, then those herbs don't have to work as hard to do what they need to do.
Mm. So we've talked about the passing out parts, but what about through the day if I'm looking to get more energy and focus? What do you like?
Sublingual B vitamins is a start. Most people don't take a lot of supplements, but even just a sublingual B, I'm a big sublingual person because of the absorbency. You get an 80 to a 90% absorbency, anything going sublingual into the body versus having to go down into the stomach and being absorbed through that way. So sublingual bees is would be my first recommendation to start. If that isn't enough for you, then we start stepping up to some little stronger things. You could try essential oils, anything citrus. Citrus helps
Mm.
stimulate the brain. So, sweet oranges, lemons, grapefruits, things like that, and then you really are somebody who just has a lot of fatigue and you're really struggling, then I would recommend, this is where I go to a lot of my Chinese herbs, ginsengs, guarana, gotu kolas, things like that. You'll get moving then.
So citrus stuff. So even just as simply, I know that there's probably ways to make it more intense, but having an orange in your morning breakfast or whatever, the aroma of that and eating that is one like mini trick to be able to give you a little bit more of a lively step to yourself in the morning.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have a little bit of lemon in your tea or something like that. Yeah, there's so many simple things. Everything we've got out there is right in our own homes and people don't even realize it.
For those of you just joining us, I'm talking with Tammie Lowell, part of the Lakota Nation out in Florissant, Colorado, and master herbalist and a phytotherapist. Am I saying that right?
Correct. Yeah, you got that
Yes.
right.
You
Yeah.
can find her at oyateherbals.com. That's Oyate herbals.com, where she has a massive selection of things that go back sometimes even thousands of years, as I mentioned at the start of the show. So you had commented on something you called sublingual. I've heard that term before, but for those of us who don't know, what does that mean if you're going to be taking a supplement or something sublingually? What is that?
Sublingual is basically placing it underneath your tongue. My recommendation is to put it under your tongue, hold it for a count of 20, and then swallow.
Okay.
So what sublingual does is it means it goes directly into with the saliva glands, it goes directly into the bloodstream in from the underneath part. And it's amazing how quickly it absorbs.
So with when you were talking about vitamin B, like can you get some of these then in like liquid form then, or is it like a powder? Like what would be under your tongue?
I recommend a liquid form. You can get a lot of different sublingual liquid B vitamins at Whole Foods, Natural Grocers, Sprouts, things like that. I carry one from a holistic doctor, Dr. Amy, who's with the uh, internal or national medicine. I can't even think of it right now. But yeah, she developed a really nice B vitamin. They actually market it as it's called Black Bear Energy, and
Mm.
it works wonders. But the way it is, it's a hydroxyl B versus a methyl B, and the absorption is much better that way. You can go to my website and read about all of this as well, that in more in detail, because I know I could go on and on forever, and we don't have that much time to go into all the specifics of B vitamins.
Well, here's one question though for you. Can you overdo it on B vitamins or can your body just dismiss what it doesn't want to use?
It usually dismisses all of it. There are some methyl bees that can, if you do an overabundance of it, can upset your stomach or even give you the jitters. And that's the reason why a hydroxyl bee is much better, because of the way it does absorb.
All right. So with the sublingual, I've heard this before. I've read it on the internet, so it must be true, right?
All right.
So maybe if you have or haven't heard anything about this, it's sometimes with sublinguals, people will say, I feel like maybe not enough of it is absorbing. And then when I swallow, I've heard people say that your esophagus is capable of also continuing that absorption. And so is that something that you've heard that you can do?
And that is correct. Yes, it does. It's basically, it starts the absorption underneath the tongue. Like I said, without getting into all of these clinical bio, from my biology classes, but it does. It runs back down, and it starts all of this mechanism to start absorbing very fast.
So then if I was going to let my esophagus do some of the work, so just maybe like wait 10 minutes or something before I drink anything else so I can give it a chance to all sit in there.
I recommend 10 to 15 minutes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Before you put, even prior or after. So if you just decided to drink a cup of coffee and you want to take your tincture, wait for 10 or 15 minutes, then take it, and then wait for another 10 or 15 minutes, take another drink. You do get a lot better absorbency that way.
All right. And so the trick here is just making sure that you're avoiding the stomach acid and digestive process to make sure that as much of the good stuff is getting into our bloodstream as purely as it needs to be.
Correct. Yeah. And yes, absolutely. I mean, there are times where I do recommend, you taking something and swallowing immediately, like maybe a probiotic, or, pre or probiotics, things that you want to actually work with the stomach as well. But otherwise, still, I am a tincture person. I am a firm believer in sublingual usage. You don't get that from capsules because it has to go down into the stomach. It has to be digested and absorbed through the intestines. So you only get usually a 40 to a 60% absorbency from the herbs. So you're not getting that. It just doesn't pack the punch that you really need. And you're wasting a lot of your money on that part of it when you can do it on a tincture and get 80 to a 90% absorbency very quickly.
Right. It's like almost like double, right? You almost have double the
absolutely.
dose.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't carry, I have not worked with any type of capsule herbs or package them anymore. I've went nothing but strictly tinctures now. I use vegetable glycerides as well.
Okay. So if I'm going to be doing this on a sublingual level, I say me, like all of us, right? So does that then eliminate certain formulas or things that could aid digestion or settle the stomach or whatever? Or do you have stuff that also helps with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't eliminate it at all. It
Okay.
just, you get a better absorbency out of it. I mean, once you get the saliva glands working, and that's the ideal, is to get everything starting to digest here versus waiting for it to hit the stomach.
All right. So again, that's 20 seconds. I asked this because I've done some sublingual stuff before. And then, yeah, your saliva glands can start to go crazy. And you're like, I feel like I just drank a mouthful of water or something. So after 20 seconds or so is enough, and then I can swallow away.
I tell everybody count to 20. It's kind of a go-to for all of us herbalists. I mean, there are some things that I'll recommend that go ahead and hold for as long as you can stand it. But usually it's just a kind of an over the board. 20 seconds is usually a good standard.
Okay. So earlier I was mentioning I would get back to animals, right? So also with the holidays, but also just on an ongoing level, my cats get a little stressed out. The dogs probably just get excited, right? They love every time the doorbell rings and anything I want in. That's a dog, right? Are there things that we can use that you have for our pets, maybe just to make them feel more comfortable, less stressed out, all the way to potentially even aiding with their own biology, injuries, balance, whatever? Like, I read that you do things with animals, and I found that to be very interesting. So take it from the top. What's available to us out there for our other members of our family?
Okay. Well, the herbs that we use for ourselves, like the valerian root and passion flowers to calm them, also works with animals. You just need to make sure that you're working with an herbalist or somebody who has created the tincture for a smaller individual, or like I said, a dog or a cat. So I actually carry two different tinctures for anxiety. I carry one called wolf's anxiety and lion's anxiety. So those are herbal based. They're dosed by weight. And if you've got a stressed out, I mean, cats, I think, are stressed out in general, but, they just have a tendency to get, spazzy. But there are a lot of dogs that, especially that are in shelters, people adopt a dog and they don't know what to do with them. That's a wonderful way to go. I am a firm believer in CBD for pets. CBD does help them. It works great as an anti-inflammatory for joints. I carry 3 different dog treats. I carry one that is for common mobility. It also has turmeric and green lipid mussel shell and wild Alaskan salmon. And especially for that end of life dog that just needs to be comforted, I have seen it extend the life of dogs and just give a better quality of life. Not saying that it doesn't work for the ones that need preventative as well, especially the bigger dogs with joints and hip mobility. It works great. I have another one that is for calming and for, excuse me, and it has lion's mane and reishi mushrooms in it. Mushrooms are amazing for the dogs cleansing their system. It's also an antihistamine. So if you've got allergens in dogs, it works wonders there. And then I have a third one that is for digestion. It has pre and probiotics and organic pumpkin and garbanzo beans. Now, all of them are based with the same pumpkin. Some of them have some peanut butter and things like that, but those are probably my clients' all go-tos. They love those dog treats. They work wonders. And they all have the same amount of CBD, which does the same thing. I have people who use them 30 minutes before they take their dog to get their nails clipped, because the only time the dog has issues is when you take it to the vet or you take it to the groomer. So they use that, dog calms down, and it makes life easier on them, the dog, and either the vet or the groomer.
So it just in turn makes them happier or just more relaxed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I have owners that have pets that the minute a storm hits Colorado, they start freaking out, and they'll give them sometimes a combination of the wolf anxiety with some CBD. I also carry just CBD tinctures for pets that if they don't want to do the dog treat, if their dog just is not going to eat the treats, you can put a little bit of that in their dog food or just squirt it sublingually in their mouth. And then you've got it all taken care of.
Right. So CBD, for those of you who have been living under a rock for the past decade, we're talking about the non-psychoactive, more medicinal
Yes.
components of marijuana.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Cannabinoids comes from a hemp plant, not a marijuana plant, 2 totally different things.
Right.
And CBD is now federally legal all over the United States. It is no longer even on the controlled substance list. Hasn't been for the last 8 years.
I want to stay with pets, but that might be an interesting conversation for us to talk about in one of our future shows.
Okay.
Now that CBDs have been legalized nationally, it's a detail that's critical that a lot of people miss, though, is that until it was, you couldn't do big studies on it because you weren't allowed to have it, right? And so now we're starting to see some universities and things show up, and they're really taking this on. And I wonder over the next 20 years, what might come of it. And so on a future show, and this is something I know you're always staying current on all this stuff, it might be interesting to know, like, what are some of the things that people are using out there or trying to figure out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is, yeah, that's a whole show in itself, definitely, Ross. Yeah, but I have stayed up on it. I am a survivor of leukemia thanks to CBD, so I've seen it do wondrous things. So,
what a nice sneak peek for one of our coming up shows. And we'll definitely plan on doing
yep.
that. So with the animals, you had said something though that I definitely want to make sure I don't forget, because depending on what you meant by this is a pretty bold statement, right? So the like German Shepherds, larger dogs that get the hip dysplasia and stuff, you commented on the hips. Does these supplements or medicinal uses for the herbals you have, is that actual pain relief for them, or can it sometimes even prevent or help with the hip issues as a whole? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, all of the above. Yes. Well, the main thing is inflammation is what causes most pain. So if we can reduce the inflammation, we reduce the pain, we also reduce the risk of further damage.
And so, like, would you say that some of your customers have had dogs that they almost kind of see, limping around, or they don't have as much spring in their step every morning. And they know because they've gone to the vet and they're saying like this, the hip problem's starting to set in, and they've been able to kind of snap out of it, at least for a period of time, by using some of your things.
Oh, absolutely. I have had dogs that couldn't get up the stairs and they've come to me. They've used these dog treats that have, like I said, it's not just CBD, but it has turmeric, it has the green lipid mussel shell, wild Alaskan salmon. Those are amazing, glucosamines, things that really target joints and the hips. And yeah, within a few days, they are coming around and they're coming back up the stairs again and doing wondrous things. Even the older dogs, I've had folks that have had, dogs that are in their latter years and they're just not moving. Well, they lay around a lot. And with that common mobility dog treat, they're getting up, they're moving around, they're feeling better. A pet, that's the thing. A pet can't tell you what's going on, but boy, you can sure see it. So, and that is even a better way of somebody using these and seeing that how herbal properties work, because there's no placebo effect with the dog. You if it's going to work, you watch it.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
motivational speech for
exactly.
Fluffy.
Nope. Nope. And I've watched this over and over again, and it's given these dogs, especially the end of life or that have had major hip issues or things like that, it extends that time. It really makes a huge difference for them. And a lot of times it can, because they are all anti-inflammatories, it does help at least stop some of that progression, because if you stay with inflammation all the time, all that's going to do is cause more damage, more issues.
And so what's interesting about this is it's not masking pain. If it's getting rid of the inflammation, it's actually then removing the agitation for the pain, right?
Correct. Yes, correct.
I love talking about this, because sometimes even when it comes to kids, they got a bone sticking out and you're like, put some butter on it. But meanwhile, I think if any of our little pet loved ones, we're like, I'll buy you a whole new house to make it go away. We
Oh, I
love
know.
our pets so much.
Yes. Oh,
And so,
yeah.
so I wanted to be clear about this, that could really, really make a difference. Now, how long do you think it would take generally? And I know every animal's different, just like every person's different, but what
Right.
would be an expectation that if they wanted to start a treatment with them to maybe see some of these positive effects?
Usually we're seeing effects with the first few days, within 3 days. But excuse me, with any herbs or anything, it takes 2 weeks to build up into the system, and animals are no different.
Okay, so definitely give it the 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But you're saying that sometimes you have these dogs that are resisting going up and down the stairs, or, breaking your heart as they do, because you can see how they're struggling with it. And just
Yes.
whatever, 3 to 14 days later, they're not necessarily that they're
Yeah,
running
I mean, I have
marathons, but
some people that give it to them right away, especially if they're just going to the dog groomer, and yeah, they see that calming effect immediately.
all right. So we're almost out of time. So Tammie
Okay.
Lowell, Master Herbalist, oyateherbals.com. That's Oyate herbals.com. So do you ship everywhere in the world, or, because I know you're based in Florissant, Colorado, but how else can people get stuff from you?
I do ship worldwide, basically mostly in the United States, but I can ship worldwide. The best place to find me is on my website at oyateherbals.com. I am also on Facebook. You can follow me there. I am also on Instagram. If anybody wants to actually come and see me at an event, that is the best place to go, because I will always post where I'm going to be, and I do events all the time, all over Colorado. So, and a lot of people want to, see me personally, and that's fine as well.
Okay, great. So once again, pleasure to talk to you as always. Tammie Lowell, oyateherbals.com, Oyate Herbals. I am Ross Morasso, and to everybody out there, happy holidays, and we'll see you again next time.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.